It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley as we begin the Friday show, kids. Got a lot to clean up. Clean off the desk.
Yeah.
Before we get out of here this morning. Gary, how are you?
Well, I'm reading this story here.
Yeah.
MSNBC host Lawrence O'Donnell reveals he's taking a week off, citing exhaustion from the Trump presidency. Now, this is the one thing that you and I, well, we discussed a couple things, but this is one of the things we discussed in our pre-show meeting that was a long pre-show meeting. I think it lasted 50 seconds.
I think it was almost a minute. Yeah.
Yeah, it almost got to a minute.
Yeah.
But you had made the comment that if Kamala had won, our discussion would be, is it possible for us to work 7 days a week?
Right. And should we be doing a 10-hour show 7 days a week?
Exactly.
Because what happened to the MSNBC? Oh, it wasn't lean into it. It was lean forward or bend over. I forget what we're trying to.
Now it's lean back.
Lean back.
Take a week off.
Take a week off.
Lean back in the recliner. Take a week off.
Yes.
The new motto of MSNBC.
What?
Where nobody actually wants to work a full-time job, including Rachel Maddow.
Rachel Maddow, Lawrence O'Donnell. It's like, we need time off to recover from Trump. Wow. That is so cowardly. You know what it comes down to? Likely. I think I said this about Rachel Maddow. She's run out of things to say, and so has Lawrence O'Donnell. They kept repeating. When it gets to the point of calling your own network racist, you've gone full circle.
Yes,
you're done.
Right. You're right.
You shouldn't work more than 1 day a week. I don't know how you get through the one show. Because you played the racist card all the way to the end, back to you and your network. Well, there's nothing left. I'm so racist with Rachel Maddow. That's the new take. And Lawrence O'Donnell. You know, here's somebody. Wow. I wonder how he's lasted this long, quite frankly. I really wonder how he's lasted.
Yeah, he's not really
long.
good, is he?
He's not
really
good.
Yeah,
he never
right.
has been good.
Yeah, I've seen him.
I'll never forget years ago on Showtime the show Homeland. And there was a character, you remember. Yes. There was a character in this show, all right? So he was being held hostage by terrorists overseas, and he comes back. So at that point in the show, he's a hero. And so MSNBC, Lawrence O'Donnell, they want to do a sit-down interview in the home. They're gonna film it in the home. And the daughter and the mom are, in the car riding somewhere, and the daughter is having some issues with this, and she says something to the effect, yeah, but, I don't want to do this in front of 10 million people. And I thought, don't worry, you're not, because you're going to be on the Lawrence O'Donnell show on MSNBC. Nowhere close to 10 million people.
Well, the best that MSNBC ever was in the Meteor movie.
Mm. Oh, yeah. Taya Leone.
Yes.
Right?
I keep wanting to say deep fake. Forgot what Deep Impact was the name of it.
Right.
Like, what was it? It wasn't deep fake.
Deep fake impact.
What was it? I can't think of what it was.
Deep fake impact would be somebody who comes up with an AI video of an asteroid that isn't really there, but is going to hit the Earth, and everybody decides to change their entire lives. Everybody on the planet. Deep fake impact. That would be that movie. Yeah, Taya Leone. is probably the greatest asset that MSNBC ever had.
It never had.
Never had.
The greatest asset they never
fictional.
had.
And remember how she got her rise to be the anchor on there? It's like, we're going to choose you to be the anchor during this whole thing. And she's like, oh, that's great. And I'm thinking, that's because they're all going to scramble to find shelter. They're putting you, it's like the poor reporters that have to go out live in a hurricane. They're putting her out there with this big meteor coming down, and they're all going to go seek shelter.
Yeah, but she did die in the huge wave coming in with her not her husband, her father.
Yeah, that was a sweet moment. It was, but that was,
it was a sweet moment. I don't know.
I guess if you're going to have a moment like that, then it should be with your dad. I guess
I always saw it when I saw that part and where she's with her father, and the meteors hit and it's hitting the ocean, and it's just kind of it's a 200-foot tidal wave.
Yeah,
and they're standing there on the shore looking at it, and I'm thinking my instinct, as stupid as it would not be to stand there. I'm still going to run in the opposite direction.
Yeah, I mean, it would be give myself a chance. Right. I also came up with a comedy line for that moment that they obviously didn't use, but I think would have been great. This is how my warped brain works. If her dad, standing there with her on the beach is that massive wave, like, I don't know, 300, 4,000 feet tall.
Yeah,
wave.
it was long. It was taller than 200 feet.
Yeah. And so he's standing there with her, and in the final moment, I really regret not teaching you how to swim. Something like
But I would have jumped in the car and gone 100 miles an hour.
Something.
In the opposite direction.
Something.
Just go. I mean, at least
I'm
go.
I'm going to give myself every chance.
Don't give up.
Right. But she did work for MSNBC, so that's how it goes.
Oh, that's right.
We've come full circle.
She wasn't at the anchor desk because she took a week off.
That's right.
Remember?
Right.
Yeah, okay, that's what it was.
Yeah, because she couldn't handle all the pressure of a globe-ending impact.
Yeah. She broke the story, and then they said, well, then you're going to be the anchor for that. And I never thought of it that way. What they basically said is, you're going to die. We're all getting out of here.
Yeah. Listen, good luck. This is really going to elevate your profile if, that's going to be a thing after this.
And the other thing is we got to start out the show, again, in the entertainment mode.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorites yesterday, Chris Cuomo and James Carville.
Ah.
Where are they going now? Where's Carville? What direction is he going in now? Right?
Okay.
Remember he said Kamala was going to win.
Right.
Then he said the Trump administration would crumble in 30 days. Mm-hmm. What does he have now? Are you ready?
Okay.
Here we go.
What are you going for here with I'm worried that Trump has syphilis?
Well, okay. First of all, there's something wrong with him. That's pretty clear. That meeting in the Oval Office was a significant deterioration. Secondly, we do know that he did have red splotches on his hand, which, it could be an indication of syphilis.
Did I miss the whole medical career of James Carville?
I don't know. It's just like,
or is he just a syphilis expert for other reasons? That's a weird obsession.
Where do you go beyond Hitler?
Right.
Where do you go? All right, we went Hitler. We found Elon Musk is worse. What's the next thing? Trump has syphilis.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And if he's talking about the meeting with Zelensky,
I guess that's the one he's talking about. Yeah. That was actually spot on.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting now because Putin's trying to worm his way out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're for it, but we're not.
Yeah. Look, of course I want to cease fire, depending. He throws down this massive Ukraine-sized asterisk. It's like, yeah, as long as you give me all of this territory here, draws a line around Ukraine. I don't know what anybody expected from Russia, but this is the only way to get to that point, right?
Right.
To find out where everybody is in the game. Doesn't mean that the approach was wrong. How you get there. I don't know. I think they were very clear, the president and the vice president. We don't know how it's going to go. But we start with this, and we see.
Well, as we have said, when it happened, we said, well, we understand what we believe he's doing. Look, anything is a gamble. You don't
Right.
when you get into these negotiations, you don't know.
Right.
But I look at how Trump has responded to Israel. I look at the Abraham Accords. I look at how he took out Soleimani.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's criticism out there coming from conservative circles that he drew a red line in the sand for Hamas and hasn't acted upon it yet.
Mm-hmm.
You know that. You know,
Yeah.
but it's like, well, with Trump, again, I really, even from the first term, I don't pay attention to everything that he says. I pay attention to what he does.
Well, and we've also seen with Iran, there was kind of that criticism, remember, in his first term about, okay, something needs to be done, what are you going to do? And that it was sanctions, and then there was the cyber attack, essentially, that we imposed on them. And then ultimately it was the killing of Soleimani.
Right.
It's this. I don't know what the plan would be with Hamas, but if it's anything like that, I've come to not expect it to happen overnight.
Neither did I. I'm just talking about there is criticism out there. You see it on social media going, what happened here?
Right.
But the things that you see on social media that you have people worried about is not necessarily what I'm worried about. I look at this and say, okay, Russia refuses it. What's next?
Right.
You know, they're back to the military aid. You get more military aid. How do you encourage Russia, because the entire world is watching, including a significant portion of the Republican Party that does not trust Putin?
Right.
You if you come from the Cold War, as we do, you don't trust Putin at all.
Right.
And so it's interesting. It would be interesting to see, because to get Zelensky in there, you know, it was some loud back and forth, as we know.
Mm-hmm.
Will that loud back and forth happen between Putin and Trump? We don't know. Trump said yesterday it would be extremely disappointing, and now I'm sure they're trying to figure out what the next reaction of the United States is going to be in that. And I don't know what it's going to be.
Right.
But I look at his track record, and you know, when people say, you know, Trump is a tool of Putin,
yeah,
Trump does not want to be submissive to anybody.
No.
And I'm not saying that as an insult. I'm saying, as a president of the United States, he doesn't want to, nor should he want to.
Right.
And so this thing that Trump wants to be a dictator, but he wants to be submissive, and let the world know that he's submissive to Putin and Xi, well, that's sort of a hard sell.
And also, we're so tired of talking about him, we're going home for a week. I mean, seriously. Wow. They've really, I honestly believe they're running out of things to say. Carville has the first original thing in a while.
That's right.
You know?
It hasn't gone viral yet.
No.
I'm waiting for it to go viral.
Right.
The Democrats are desperately looking for a new talking point. It's going to be tough over the next 36 hours with that, with the Schumer coming out and saying now he's going to support the continuing resolution.
Yeah.
A lot of questions, people asking, why did Schumer change? There's only one reason I can say that Schumer changed: internal polling.
Well, you know, and I told you in the spring, in the pre-show meeting, in that 45 seconds, that the Democrats didn't take advantage of what they should have done.
No.
Schumer was out there saying, this would be a gift to Donald Trump if we close down the government. We're not going to do that.
Wrong.
No, what you should have said, we are glad that our friends in the GOP across the aisle want to keep items from the Biden agenda alive. And with this continuing resolution, we do so because we believed in those things. And this will make sure that some of those things will still get done. Those appropriations are still there. We want to thank the GOP for passing this.
Yep.
So that we can keep those things in play and keep them alive. Thank you to the GOP. We're voting yes on this CR, and we're glad that our friends in the GOP also believe in the Biden agenda.
Do we have to be a political consultant for everyone? Because that was we know because we talked about it yesterday.
Yep.
That's the internal fighting in Republicans right now.
Yep.
Why are we funding Biden priorities from last year?
Right.
And that's a tough one, for any Republican to win, except, okay, we're going to do it down the road.
Right.
And you better do it down the road because you're going to lose House members if you don't. You're not going to be able to pass anything if you don't.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully that's the way it will turn out. You won't be able to pass anything. But you and I were talking about it. It's like, well, yeah, it was obvious. That should have been where Schumer went. Thank you, Republicans. And they all get on board to do this. And they get to, and I agree with you, I would have suggested as a political consultant to the Democrats, look, you're lost. Take a little victory. Go out there and say, thank you, Republicans, because then you put it back on Republicans again.
Yes, exactly.
You put it on Republicans.
That would have been the headline.
Right. Would have been the headline.
Was waiting for that to pop.
Yeah.
I was waiting for that to pop when they said, when it came out that Schumer was going to vote yes. It was like, why haven't they thought of that? And I would have said, we'd love to be there, when, hey, let's get both parties together on Capitol Hill and have a joint press conference, shall we? And celebrate this continuing resolution.
Right.
That would have been horrible for the GOP.
Yeah.
And they didn't do it.
Nope.
Instead, he put it on Trump. We're not going to give Trump the win. Wow, you missed the opportunity here.
You gave Trump the win.
You gave the Trump. You admitted, this whole thing was a play that cornered you guys, and you only had one option here because you didn't want to shut down the government.
Yeah.
And as you said, the internal polls.
Well, the win is yesterday you said you weren't going to do it. Today you said yes.
Right.
That's the win for Trump.
That's the win.
866-90 Red Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. It's not always easy to spring back from the harsh days of winter to warmer months ahead. From de-icing chemicals to hidden debris underneath snow and ice, winter conditions can do serious damage to your truck. Here's a must-do maintenance check to help you minimize downtime and stay rolling. Inspect your brake hoses, linings, and slack adjusters for any wear and tear. Listen for any air leaks that may have resulted from moisture freezing up in the system. Check slack adjusters for proper stroke and lubrication. And check your brake linings or pads to ensure proper thickness.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's our Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. And the mistake that Schumer made was, well, as we just stated there, but also stating that he wasn't going to vote for it, which means it wasn't going to get through, to now saying he was going to vote for it, which now has created a mini civil war within the Democratic Party right now.
Right. Yeah, no, you're right. That should have been sewed up. Get that done behind closed doors and make your final decision.
Right.
And whatever you're going to go with, you don't say a thing until you're going to go with that decision.
Exactly. And so you've got the far left, which is saying you weren't going to go against it. Now you've given Trump the victory.
Right.
And you're saying by voting for it, you don't give Trump the victory, but everybody knows
you
do. And the far left doesn't want to give Trump any victories at all.
Yeah, no, they looked bad.
I saw the Black Caucus yesterday. I'll get the audio cut. The Black Caucus had their retreat and said, Trump's starting a civil war. It's like, okay, here we go. I mean, that's the only thing you can do.
Right.
Is state stuff like that, throw out, more hot rhetoric. Hitler doesn't work.
Right.
Elon Musk doesn't work. So you go to, I guess, civil war.
And syphilis.
And you go to civil war and syphilis.
Yes.
It's going to be my new band.
Exactly.
The Civil War and syphilis. Playing tonight.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thanks so much for being here. As always, we appreciate it. Download our new Red Eye Radio app. We've updated it.
Mm-hmm.
Our new updated Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose.
It's new and improved. It has 20% more red, 20% more eye, and about 1% more radio. So, download it now. If you have the app already and have your phone set, your device set on updates, automatic updates, then it will do that for you. If not, then make sure you update the app and have the new version. And thank you to everybody who listens on the app. Greatly appreciate that.
So, do they have the numbers to pass? Are you going to get enough in the Senate? Because Schumer was the second one. He didn't say that he had a ton of people behind him.
No, he didn't make that.
It's Fetterman and Schumer.
Right. But on the right, you have Rand Paul, who's a no. So
yeah, exactly. So you've still got 52. You need 8.
Yeah.
So you've got 2, which means you need 6 more.
6 more, yeah.
Right.
I don't know who those would be.
I think they'll get them. I just haven't seen a whip count.
Well, there seems to be a consensus that Schumer will whip the votes and bring enough to get it done. That the thought was he was talking so confidently that, hey, we're going to avoid this shutdown, basically, that it seems like he believes he's got the votes behind him. But we haven't heard of a head count as to who they might be. And maybe they don't want that out there. I don't know.
2 things I saw from Republicans yesterday on social media, and we did have this talk. We get a lot in a 50-second pre-show meeting.
Yeah, we do.
One of the things or a couple of things that we saw yesterday on social media was the fact of, Republicans questioning, this better be the last one like this. And why are we still funding, Biden stuff? That doesn't make any sense to do that.
Right.
Because you got 1 Democrat vote, but you still had the votes anyway. You had the votes anyway without the 1 Democrat vote in the House. Mm-hmm. Why did you allow it? Now, did they allow it because they knew they couldn't get any Democrats and this will help them get Democrats? But the fact is Democrats and Schumer didn't use that, because you and I both agree what Schumer should have said is, if we were political consultants to the Democrats, Schumer should have said, he shouldn't have said yet or 2 days ago, no, I'm not going to vote for it. He should have said, absolutely, I'm voting for it. The Republicans are doing us a great favor by keeping the funding for all the Biden programs that we and all Americans agree with, whether they do or not.
Exactly.
And I say that because AOC was out there yesterday talking about the fact that, well, Schumer shouldn't do this because you've got Republicans and independents protesting their own people at these town hall meetings. No, they're not.
No.
Those aren't Republicans.
No.
We all know that. And so, but you can make the case, because that was the arguing, as we said, that was going on social media with Republicans yesterday. And the other one was, and you noticed it, and I both, and I noticed it, was, Trump still, the first argument about tariffs with Canada goes down to, see, this is why they should become the 51st state. And it was all serious. It's all serious now. None of it's kidding around.
Right.
Every time they talk about it, it's serious.
Right.
I have not seen Trump be so out of touch with what Republicans want than that argument that he's making right now. And as we said, there isn't one Republican that agrees that Canada should be the 51st state. Not one. There is, because if you say you are, you're not a Republican.
Well,
Because
you want to end the Republican Party.
Yeah, if you want to, yeah.
For our lifetime, you got to do the math on this, people. And the makeup of Canada would ensure, because they would be, their population is just over what California has. So you're bringing another California into the mix. That's the best way to do it. We did the math on, all right, 57 more House seats, 2 more Senate seats for the Democrats. That's the way it would go. Then you want to get to the presidential election, the Electoral College. This would ensure for probably our lifetime or many years to come, Republicans wouldn't be able to win the White House.
Canada would become the biggest state in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
So you would have 57 Congress people with a roughly plus, if you look at Canada and say Canada's much like California and the big urban areas that are all liberal.
Right.
And you look at it and you could say you would have a plus 40 to 45 a net increase of Democrats, House members, if Canada became it. So you would never win the House again.
Right.
You would have 2 additional Democrat senators. And when you could win the Electoral College again, I can't tell you when that would be, for a president of the United States. It is so stupid that the White House is using that as an argument. And it's their first argument now.
It should never be mentioned again.
It should never be mentioned again. There's not one Republican for it. Trump normally can look at the Republican Party and say, this is an argument I can use. This one is just so dumb. It's so dumb. It's so stupid. It would be, if you did that, the most self-destructive action that the United States has ever taken. Now, it's not going to happen.
No.
So stop talking about it when nobody in your party, not one person in the Republican Party, wants Canada to be the 51st state. You don't even have support of 1% of your party. And remember, that's worse than the 20% favorability rating for the Democrats.
Well, Levitt has talked about it, and I'm wondering why nobody in that room in the media has brought up the numbers that we have brought up.
Yeah.
So the president wants to hand it to the Democrats?
Right. It's so dumb.
Is that what he's wanting to do?
I mean, it is, to me, it's the dumbest justification that Trump has ever tried.
Well, and then
because it doesn't get even, it gets 0% support from your own party.
Right. Well, and then he made the comment, what was it, yesterday? Canada only makes sense as a state, not a trade partner.
Yes, exactly. That's what I mean. He brought it up again.
Well, wait a minute. It doesn't make, if you're a Republican, it makes 0 sense as a state.
Right. We've talked about the Democrats being in a bubble. On this issue, there is a complete bubble in the White House where they have absolutely no concept. It's funny because I did this with a bunch of my conservative friends, over the last couple of days, and it's been it's been fun because I asked one friend of mine. I said, "What do you think? Should Canada be the 51st state?" And she wrote back to me. She said, "Well, I'm not sure. I really don't understand." Now this person's been traveling a lot. She said, I really don't understand the whole concept of it. What would be the advantage? I said, well, I'll tell you what the disadvantage would be, and then you can tell me, because I know I'll get your final absolute answer when I tell you this. And I said, if you look and extrapolate it out by the population of Canada, 57 members of Congress, you would have a plus 40 to 45 additional Democrats, which means we wouldn't win the House for decades.
Right.
It would destroy the Electoral College because of, you would have now California, and you would have a state bigger than California with all their electoral votes that would go for a Democrat from now into, who knows when, and you would add 2 additional Democrat senators. Oh, her response was, no!
Of course. And I don't know why nobody in the media has asked that question to Levitt, because she has brought it up herself.
Well, have you heard anyone in any conservative media bring this up?
No.
I haven't seen this in
No.
National Review.
No.
I haven't seen it in the Wall Street Journal. I haven't seen it in on Fox, Newsmax, nothing.
The electoral college thing should scare the daylights out of you.
I know.
I mean, the Congress thing is equally important too. But if you're going to look in terms of, who's saying it, the current president and his party, it would be, I'm wondering why Chuck Schumer hasn't said, well, listen, we know it's never going to happen. But if it ever does, we'll love it.
Yeah, exactly. We appreciate that the president of the United States is promoting a Democrat win in the elections from here until who knows how far, with insisting that Canada become a state.
If you want to make the Electoral College great again with the Democrats, this is the way to do it.
Yeah, if you want the Democrats to shut up about the Electoral College and the Senate,
this is it.
This is the way to do it.
This is how you do it. Robert Reich at that point would go, oh, no. I fully believe in the Senate. I fully believe it. That is, because things change. Living, breathing document, that thing.
Living, breathing document, that thing.
just throw everything in.
And yesterday, near the end of the show, reading about especially contractors, small contractors, not know what's going on because the tariffs are on, the tariffs are off, the tariffs are on, the tariffs are off. I said it. I know you said it. I said, just make the damn decision. Put the tariffs on or don't do it.
Right.
Because you and I have talked about this. In any economic theories that we hold, you and I, if we were a member of Congress or president, would promote any economic thing that we would promote, which would be deregulation of Congress, we would put into effect immediately and wholeheartedly because we know they would work.
Without hesitation.
Without hesitation. We wouldn't
There's
back
nothing
off.
to negotiate
right.
because it's the right thing to do.
Right. So if it's the right thing to do, put all the tariffs on. If you believe, because the administration believes it, Lutnick believes it, Navarro believes it, if you believe tariffs should fund everything, then don't sit there and say you're going to tariff and then the next day pull it off. Make them permanent and see what happens after a couple of years. Do it because you're confusing. You've got the market doesn't know what to do.
Right.
Just do it now. Either put the tariffs on or shut up about it forever. But do one or another. Don't put the country through a couple of years of, well, we might do tariff, because then investors don't know what to do.
Well, and if I were pro-tariff, I would be asking the question, well, wait a minute. Why would you negotiate with Mexico and Canada to not have tariffs? Why would you hesitate at all? Why would there be any talking to them? Because we all know tariffs work. There shouldn't be any negotiation.
Right.
There isn't another nation in fact, it's the whole point that no other nation is going to tell us what to do. So there are no negotiations. Tariff 100%. All products.
All products.
All nations. Let it, and then at that point, you're done.
Blake writes, stop taking Trump so literally. He doesn't want Canada as a 51st state. Blake, no. Tell Trump to be serious and stop with the foolishness.
Right.
It's not up to us to try to figure out. We did this in 2016. Stop it.
Not doing the
you guys have to understand. He's doing 7th-dimensional chess, whatever.
Yeah, we're not.
No.
No.
It's stupid, and when he says it now, he's serious.
Because it doesn't.
So don't sit there and say, you guys got to try to figure out the code of Trump.
And tell me how it works by him just saying it.
Yeah. Stop taking Trump so literally. He doesn't want Canada as a 51st state. He's showing them how small they are to give him more leverage to negotiate a better trade deal. No. If you look at the polling, the polling on the economy and tariffs with Canada sucks.
Right.
There's a reason it does.
Right.
It's how the White House is not effectively communicating their message.
Right.
It's not up to us to decipher and try to figure out what Trump really means. We did this in 2016, 2017, 2018. Not doing it anymore.
Nope.
It's up to him as president of the United States to let us know what he really means.
And to do it.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Coming up following the top of the hour, the continuing resolution. What will happen? Are the votes there? More on the tariffs and a whole bunch more.
Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara.
Hi.
Let me just get to where I want to get here.
Okay.
Just doing a couple of things and checking up on a couple of things.
All right.
Hang on.
All right.
Download our Red Eye Radio app and all that other stuff.
Yeah. Make sure you got the app. The new and improved app.
Yes, the new and improved app. Exactly.
It's free. Still free.
Okay. I can't
We did a lot of work which costs money, and we're not charging you for it.
Here it is.
Okay.
Stop taking Trump so literally. He doesn't want Canada as a 51st state. He's just showing how small they are, given to give him more leverage to negotiate a better deal. I'm sick and tired of that. I want Trump to be honest and direct about our situation with Canada. As I wrote back to him, the situation in Canada that we're in right now was all negotiated by Trump and USMCA. Every bit of it. Any bit that was left out of it, they did that as part of the negotiations.
Mm-hmm.
Trump is completely responsible. He is the one. No member of Congress wrote it. It was him and his trade representatives. The situation we're in with Canada is because of Trump. If it's good, it's because of Trump. If it's bad, as he said, it's horrible, then it's Trump.
Right.
He told us it was the greatest trade deal ever. Now he's communicating with us that it sucks. It's time for him to communicate effectively. It is not our job to try to decipher what Trump means.
It's coming in, and also during the transition period, you want to joke about it, you let that dog lie.
Yeah.
And if you want to get into it deeper during one interview and go, well, the joke is based on the idea, blah, 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 blah. But I'm waiting for somebody in the media to put the numbers to them, whether it's Levitt or the president, and say, you do realize this is what it would mean for Democrats. It would be a massive advantage to the Democrats for a very, 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 very long time. And they would get away with anything they wanted to do based on their majorities. Now, the Senate, they only get 2 more Senate seats, so that may still be in play from, every once in a while. But the House would go to the Democrats. And based on the Electoral College and how Canadians vote, it would go to the Democrats. The White House would go to the Democrats for I don't know how long. Probably the rest of my lifetime.
Right. Be clear with the American people why you want tariffs.
Right.
On one hand, you say it's fentanyl. On the other hand, he has said, doesn't matter what the fentanyl is, tariffs are going to stay because that's how we're going to fund the federal government. That tariffs are going to replace the income tax.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it, he is. So on one hand, the people you're negotiating with, they're like, we don't know what you want.
Right.
Americans, we don't know what you want. When you look at it, let me just see here. I want to get there was one on Canada I was looking at. This is on just because we mentioned the YouGov poll a couple of weeks ago that showed Americans are for tariffs on China.
Mm-hmm.
The majority of Americans believe that tariffs are used for negotiations. All right, so does the president want it? Does the president, because remember, he's communicating one message. You're saying he's negotiating. When he says it's for fentanyl, then at the same time says it doesn't matter what they do with fentanyl, that we want to keep tariffs permanent.
Yeah.
In order to raise money for the federal government, are we not supposed to take him literally? Are we supposed to figure out what the Trump code is on this one when he is so blunt and literal on so many other things that we completely and totally agree with?
Right. And coming in this to this term, he's been very effective and very direct.
Now, in general, remember, this is just in general, the latest YouGov poll. All right. Should tariffs on foreign goods be increased? Now, this is inclusive for everybody. And it's unfair to ask that question, really, because China, I can justify tariffs.
Right.
If you're not in a free trade agreement and they're tariffing us, well, then, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I can see it. You and I have always stated, though, where we believe Trump got it wrong is you want to isolate China, you want to isolate Russia.
Right.
And so you want to build the trade agreements with everybody that you can deal with.
And if you want to take on friendly trade partners, Europe might be a good place to start. Mexico and Canada, you dealt with in your first term, unless you come out of the gate saying, hey, we didn't get everything done. I realize now that we didn't get all the things we wanted because it's not working the way that we thought it was going to work. We're going back to the table on USMCA. I get that. Nobody has said that. That's not that's not what they're pushing.
No.
On Europe. All right, if you want to talk about, all right, let's get this in line so that there's a greater exchange between Europe and the U.S., especially when it comes to automobiles and things like that. You want to get that in line. And then once you've done that, you turn around, you're unified as a world, as pretty much the Western world, to China and Russia, and you say, we're going to choke you out if you don't get in line.
I believe the president should be clear. I shouldn't have to figure out why we're doing the tariffs. Which answer is it? Is it just fentanyl? Is it just a trade negotiation? Or do you mean it because he's telling the American people, look, they were talking about it yesterday. The tariffs are all part of a permanent solution of tariffing everything that comes in the world in order to ensure, this was yesterday's message, that no American under $150,000 gets taxed.
Right.
So what is it? Is it negotiation? Well, you guys want to say it's negotiation. Trump isn't saying that all the time.
No.
He's saying that some of the time.
Right.
But the fact is, every single thing in our trade relationship with Canada right now was created by the last Trump administration.
Yeah. USMCA is where we stand.
Right. He created it. He's the one that made the deal and said it was the best trade deal ever. I didn't say it. Eric didn't say it. And now there's a significant number of Republicans saying, we just don't want to hear that.
Right.
We have to support him no matter what. No, we don't. I don't have to support him on every issue. I voted for him 3 times. I don't have to support him on every issue.
No.
If it's stupid, we're going to call it out as being stupid. And everybody knows. You're trying to defend him. You know it's stupid. And the defense now is the fallback position. You've got to understand the code. What code? What is the code? Do you know what it is?
Which code on which position?
Yeah.
Because is it the position that tariffs will fund everything and we're doing it regardless? Because if you're doing it regardless, then why would there be any negotiation? Why would you listen to anybody from Canada or Mexico? If you believe that tariffs are the way to go,
do it
full time, then you should also believe, in fact, that there will be no negotiation with, we're not going to the table with Mexico or Canada. We're not going to talk to them. They can call all they want to. There's no negotiation. We're doing this. And we haven't heard that. In fact, we've seen delays. Well, wait a minute. I'm pro-tariff. You're telling me Canada has a say-so? Because tariffs are good. Tariffs will replace the income tax. But you're going to let Canada decide and Mexico decide on that? You're going to have them at the table deciding whether or not you do it. That doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. Latest poll, Americans on tariffs. 25% of Americans believe they should be increased. 30% kept the same. 23% not sure. 22% decreased. Democrats, this is really a change. Bernie Sanders can't be happy because, remember, Bernie Sanders is all. When Trump says we need to fund the income tax, instead with the tariffs, Bernie Sanders is completely behind that. But Democrats, 8%. I don't believe, by the way, I don't buy that. I don't believe that only 8% of Democrats want it increased. I think it's because Trump is proposing it.
Right. Yeah.
But as 8% of Democrats say increased, 40% kept the same, 13% not sure, 40% decreased. Independents, and that's always where the problem is on these particular things, only 16% of independents want tariffs increased. 27% the same, 23% not sure, 34% decreased. Republicans, right, this is right now, last weekend, 51% say they want tariffs to be increased. 24% kept the same, 20% not sure, 5% decreased. Now, the problem is it's a generic poll on tariffs in general. You're not talking specific countries.
Right.
When we saw the YouGov poll, it was over 60%. The majority wanted China tariffed because they believe they're involved in unfair trade practices. The majority of Americans did not want Canada, did not want a trade war with Canada, and did not want the tariffs.
Right.
And so, that's a situation that you're in. But if you only have 51% of Republicans behind you, you need to be effectively communicating. And I'm amazed how still you have some Trump supporters out there that believe you need to figure out whatever the code is. Because was there a code on the border?
No.
Shut it down.
Right.
Was there a code on Israel?
Nope.
No. Is there a code on what he wishes to do with Ukraine? It was obvious. You and I, that's why we weren't upset at what happened at that meeting with Zelensky, because he wants Zelensky aboard, and then you approach Russia. We'll see what happens.
Right.
It was obvious what he wanted to do.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, on a free trade deal that he negotiated alone with Canada, that he said was the best trade deal ever. Was that a code? Was it not the best trade deal?
No.
Now, you and I said it back then. USMCA is basically NAFTA, and Trump hated NAFTA.
Right. You didn't change much.
And we believe he knows he doesn't believe he got a good trade deal, so he's trying to change it. To what, I don't know. I don't know precisely what he wants on it, because if you're talking, lumber is significant. Dairy is really inconsequential, to trade between the two countries. It just is. It's so small.
Yeah.
So what is it that we're dealing with? What do you want from Canada? What is it that you want from them?
There's no clarity. It goes back and forth every day.
I don't know. Can anybody tell us what precisely? Because people can call and say, well, no, he wants the fentanyl stopped. Okay, no, he wants a fair trade deal, then the tariffs will go. Well, yeah, he has said both of those things, but he's also said that we want permanent tariffs to fund, as recently as yesterday, they were promoting it. They were talking about the external department, the external tax department.
Yeah. instead of Internal Revenue Service. Yeah.
The External Revenue Service, right, which is tariffs.
Right.
And then now it's to 150 people under 150,000 won't have to pay taxes. That's the goal of what they get to because income taxes will be replaced by tariffs. So where's the negotiation for Canada when they're saying it doesn't matter what you do, we're going to put a permanent tariff on because that's how we're going to fund income tax. And in order to fund the income tax, you need just the income tax from people, not overall, but the income tax that people pay, you need to increase tariffs 100% across the board, everything that comes into the country.
Right.
Is that what we should do? Because Trump has proposed that. And I know people get angry because you know why Republicans get angry? They know this is a weak spot for Trump. That's why. They know not getting good trade deals, but not communicating effectively because no American knows exactly what Trump wants here.
Well,
because he's given too many reasons.
I think that's also part of the frustration. You can't answer it because he hasn't answered it.
Yeah. And our point is, if you believe economically it works, then put the tariffs on now. Put them all on now.
Do it.
Have the courage of your convictions. You say, he has stated it, wonderful. We can fund the entire income tax system because of it, and there's no downside, then do it.
Right? 100%.
Right.
No exemptions.
I don't know. 55% of Americans say they believe he's negotiating. I don't know what he's doing. He's not telling me what he's doing. He's giving me 5 different reasons. Which one should I pick from?
If you believe he's negotiating, you don't believe in tariffs.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Because you're saying there will be a point where there won't be tariffs because we've negotiated a deal. Then you don't believe in tariffs. Because you can't have both. If you believe in tariffs, then no other nation should have a say-so. We do it 100% across the board, all nations, all products, starting now. Why don't we?
866-90 Red-Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Uncompensated detention at docks frustrates drivers of all stripes. If you're an owner-operator, you have at least some control over the matter. Make the subject a standard part of your rate and/or contract negotiations on the front end. You can use your own numbers to calculate an hourly rate to compensate for lost income opportunity, as well as fixed costs, which don't stop when the truck stops. Those 2 elements of a fair detention rate were deemed appropriate by most of Overdrive's audience almost a decade ago. We've used income, fixed costs, and miles average of our owner-operator business services from ATBS's clients to compute an average $64 an hour detention rate then. And 10 years later, the figure is $83 an hour. Use your own numbers to calculate your rate. A simple conversation with any broker or shipper, or your carrier if you're leased, about what you're putting in the rate might yield results you don't expect. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. And the only reason we're talking like this is we don't want the Democrats to win. That's it. Our goal is all the same. We don't want the Democrats to win.
Well,
and the one thing that Trump is underwater on right now is tariffs on Canada, Mexico, European Union, but not China. China, the American public is for. We'll break down those numbers coming up. But it's the economy. That's the only thing where Trump is underwater,
and that's
in the
problem,
majority of the polls.
Because along with the border, they were basically neck and neck. Right. Those were the 2 issues, the 2 top issues, the economy and the border.
Yep.
And if you're not winning on the economy, that's a big deal because you sealed the border.
48% support tariffs against China, 35% oppose. Mexico, 38% support, 47% oppose. This is the latest YouGov poll. On a 25% tariff on goods imported from Canada, 32% approve, 52% disagree. A 25% tariff on all steel and aluminum imports, 35% support, 46% disagree. Tariffs on European Union, 33% agree, 49% disagree.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
We're Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm McNamara. Carla writes us, why are you wasting valuable time on talking about making Canada the 51st state, especially the discussion about the Electoral College? He's not serious about making Canada the 51st state. He's doing the deal. Wait for it. Wait for it. That includes you going on and on about tariffs. It's part of the negotiations. He's not going to show his hand because you don't show your hand when you're negotiating. Why don't you use airtime to talk about more serious topics? Because Trump's talking about it every day.
Right. We cover what's in the news, and he's keeping it in the news.
Right. I am not a Trump worshiper, and I trust no one except God, but I'm willing patiently to paint for the results. And as I responded to her, well, wait a minute. The entire thing with Canada, everything with Canada, Trump negotiated the first time.
Mm-hmm.
We were told last time by people just like you, Carla, he's negotiating, and he's going to get a great deal. That's what you told us. Then Trump came out and said, what a great deal it was. NAFTA is gone. USMCA is the best trade deal ever. He said it.
Mm-hmm.
Now he says the entire trade situation with Canada sucks.
Right.
He wrote the deal and approved the deal with his trade negotiators, and it's our fault.
We're not the ones saying it.
Yeah. It's our fault. Yeah. We need to figure out what he's talking about. It's our fault.
Right. And not talk about what he's talking about.
And then you say he's negotiating, so is lying to the American people negotiating? Because if you believe it's simply negotiating, then you don't believe when he tells you that he wants to put permanent tariffs on all nations to raise the revenue to replace the income tax.
Well, negotiating isn't talking about things that will never happen. That's not negotiating.
Well, I don't know how that part of it's negotiating with the Canadians.
Right. That's not a negotiation.
Right. So do you believe he's lying about replacing the income tax with tariffs? Because it would have to be worldwide, as we have talked about before. And to replace the income tax, you would need at least just what people pay in income tax, not for the whole budget, 100% tariffs on everything that comes into the country from everyone, every single country.
Right.
He's talking about it. We're not. Well, you guys need to talk about something more important. Because why? You can't defend him, and you know we're right.
Well,
that's why. It's always changed the topic when you don't have a point.
If you believe in tariffs, then you believe there should be no negotiation.
Yeah. Why are we negotiating?
And if you don't believe in tariffs, then you believe that this shouldn't be going on at all. Because Trump has the ability, in fact, unlike any other president as an individual, to negotiate. I don't need him to play 19th dimensional anything. He can get to the table and say, if we don't get this, 25% or 100% tariffs. That's simple. You know, the problem with changing it all the time and delaying it multiple times is that you lose the upper hand with who you're negotiating with. You're going to lose that, I don't know, doesn't want to show his cards thing. Well, you're showing your cards when you blink.
Yeah. So we've been through this once already where we were told Trump is negotiating and it's going to be the greatest trade deal after, and after it was signed it was the greatest trade deal ever. Now it completely sucks and is unacceptable. Well, who wrote the deal?
And if you're trying to get a new deal done, go get it done.
And Carla, it was Republicans that said, no, he's a master negotiator. Well, now he's communicating he sucks as a negotiator because it was a complete failure because our deal with Canada is horrible. Well, he did it. I don't know what to say except for the fact that you can't face the truth. And all we're looking for is you can still negotiate with Canada.
Mm-hmm.
But don't give us 5 different reasons and then promise the American public that you're going to be able to, because we're going to get rid of the income tax and fund it all with tariffs, that this is part of negotiation, that the tariffs are going to disappear. They're not saying that.
No.
And then you get upset because it doesn't make sense coming from the White House. So it's like you guys need to shut up about it and talk about something important.
Well, to make an argument for it, you have to cherry pick it because it's all over the place.
Yeah. Look, I got livid yesterday, just the number of people that I know, contractors right now, that don't know what the hell to do.
Well, I've talked, over the years, I've talked multiple times about how every business, big and small, has to go into planning mode if you think something's going to happen. And tariffs being that immediate, if you say, all right, these tariffs are going to take place in 30 days, businesses scramble because they've got to protect their bottom line. They got to change everything they're doing right at that moment to accommodate. Not every business is a large corporation. Not every business has the kind of leverage when it comes to borrowing. Small business has to put cash in what they think is going to happen. And then they put their cash there. Now they're cash poor and they're supply rich. And then it changes in the last second. Now they're oversupplied and they're cash poor. And if you have no borrowing power, if you have very little borrowing power, you're screwed. I just don't know where you go with it. The point is, if you're going to do something, do it. And tell the American people why you're doing it. Be clear. This is why we're doing it. And everybody has, they're all, any arguments that we get, they're all cherry picking whatever argument they heard that day or yesterday or the week before. Well, there are multiple arguments, and that tells you something. It tells you that they don't know where it's going to end. They don't know what the goal is. Because if the goal is to get a deal with Canada and Mexico, you have a deal, go back and renegotiate USMCA and say you're doing that. Nothing wrong with that. Things have changed since we did it the first time. We're going to go back in. We're going to do it again. We're going to make it even better.
Jesse writes, tariffs should be put on every country that wants to do business with us, period. If you want to do business here, it's what it's going to cost you. Otherwise, go to another country. Well, then they should do it.
Mm-hmm. Then do it.
If you believe tariffs works, do it.
If 100% tariff across the board, every product, every country.
Yeah, we're not saying don't do it. We're saying do it. Go ahead, do it.
Whatever you're going to do.
Whatever you're going to do it now.
Right.
You want a negotiating tactic, put the tariffs on and say they're staying on for a year.
Mm-hmm. And we're not talking to anybody about it.
Right.
We're not negotiating with anybody about it. This is about protecting America, and nobody else gets to say so. We're America. We get to say so. We're putting 100% tariff on everything across the board, every nation, starting now. And there is no negotiation. Why would I let anyone influence that?
Right.
Nobody gets a seat at the table. It's our table, and it's all that matters. We're looking to protect our table.
Right.
Nobody else gets to sit there. That's the whole point. There is no negotiating.
Exactly. So then that's, as I said, the weak negotiating point is you're telling them, you've got his surrogates saying, well, we're going to come with a deal that's fair for everybody. And you've got other surrogates saying, no, we're going to use tariffs to get rid of the income tax.
Right.
And you're promoting that every day on both sides of it. Well, which is it? Why should Canada come to the table when you're messaging to them that tariffs are going to be permanent and you're telling the American people they're going to be permanent and we're going to take away the income tax and other countries are going to pay the bill and you're not going to have to pay any taxes because other countries will pay all the taxes.
Right.
The Trump administration is saying that. So what is it?
And if you're pro-tariff, again, you don't want him to negotiate with anybody.
Yeah. And don't say, well, wait. We've been waiting. We went through this. This is over 4 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time, Trump surrogates were telling us, just trust it. It's going to be a great deal. Now we're told, a few years later, it's the worst deal ever made. And the person telling us that it's the worst deal ever made, communicating that fact, is the person who created the deal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's our fault. Yeah, sure it is.
Because if you believe there are negotiations to be made, then you don't believe in tariffs.
Right. And he says he does. So what is it?
We're going to have so much money we won't know how to spend it.
Yeah.
100% then. If that's the case, don't flinch.
Well, don't lash out at the messenger. Lash out at the person who is not communicating effectively when he has shown he can communicate effectively on so many other areas.
Right.
And he has improved tremendously in those other areas. And we support, I'm trying to think of anything I disagree with on Trump besides tariffs.
Yeah, I can't think of anything on the agenda that's on the agenda right now.
And it's where he's hurting in the polls.
Right.
It's his weakest spot in the polls. And the only reason we're bringing it up, number one, well, there's a couple of reasons. Number one, we don't believe Americans should be suffering. And number two, if you believe in your economic theories, then put them into action. Put tariffs on everybody. Attempt to replace the income tax with it. Do it. Just don't talk about it. Do it. It's like Doge. Greatest thing that I've ever seen domestically a president do with Doge, with Trump. It'll be the worst thing if Congress doesn't start cutting in the next year.
Right.
Now, that won't be Trump's fault, but if Trump is promoting future budgets that don't mirror the cuts that Doge is saying they have, then a political price will be paid for by all Republicans on that.
Right. And later this year, we're going to find out.
Yeah. But this is about, I don't want Democrats to win. And Trump succeeded beyond our wildest dreams on the border in just 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Done.
Right.
Now people are concerned with the economy.
Yep.
Be crystal clear what you wish to do.
And do it.
Because it's what destroyed the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
The border and the economy is what destroyed
them. It's the political
them.
Comeback of all comebacks.
Right.
I mean, of all time in American history. There's not one that matches it.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
Shutdown Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thank you so much for being here this morning. So, just interesting to see what's going to happen with all of this. But that's all we're looking for. All we're looking for is a consistent message.
Yeah,
on what the president
whatever
wants.
your policy is going to be, then implement that policy.
Right. Because nobody can tell us what Trump wants with tariffs.
Right.
You can give one of his answers. Well, no, he wants to get rid of the fentanyl.
Right.
Okay. He wants a more. We heard it earlier this week. That the whole goal of the White House is to lower tariffs across the board with all countries eventually. Then we've heard no. We want permanent tariffs because that will replace the income tax.
Right.
So if you believe it's right to negotiate with Canada by promising the American people that income tax will go away because tariffs will be doing it, I can't find any logic in that at all.
Right.
I don't know how, to promise something that the income tax is going to go away for the majority of the American public because tariffs will do it because it worked in the 1800s.
Right.
Trump's got 3, 4, 5 messages coming from different angles on what he wants.
Right.
We simply want clarity.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning.
Happy Friday.
How's everybody doing? Just to refresh everybody so you don't live in the bubble of today. Here's what the president said on February 2nd. Anybody that's on Truth Social, anybody that's against tariffs, including the fake news Wall Street Journal and hedge funds, is only against them because these people or entities are controlled by China or other foreign or domestic companies. Anybody that loves and believes in the United States of America is in favor of tariffs. They should have never ended in favor of the income tax system. They never should have ended in favor of the income tax system in 1913. The response to tariffs has been fantastic. So Trump is saying this is not negotiating. He wants tariffs to replace the income tax system. And if you don't believe that tariffs should replace the income tax system, you're controlled by China or other foreign or domestic companies.
The owner of the Wall Street Journal happened to be sitting next to him when he said this.
Yes, exactly. That's
in the Oval Office.
So, again, none of you, there's not one person out there that can tell us what Trump believes on tariffs because he's all over the place.
Right.
And
if you're going to go full on tariffs, then do it. And there's no negotiating, and let the other nations know there's nothing you can offer us.
And if you expect that we tell you the truth, then you should expect that the president also should tell you the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe, as the president said, we were the first to defend the president from Democrat attacks that he was a traitor with Russia collusion because there was no evidence, and we thought that was completely and totally out of bounds.
Mm-hmm.
To sit there and say that that anyone who does not believe that tariffs should replace the income tax system, which is not going to happen.
No, it isn't.
But if you don't believe that you're controlled by China, that's also out of line.
Right.
if it's wrong and we defended and attacked the Democrats for saying that Trump was a traitor. Remember, there was no evidence. The dossier was all cooked up. The evidence didn't exist. We said it. Then the president shouldn't be using an argument. If you're right economically, use it. Do it. Put the full tariffs on today and keep them on for a year, 100% tariffs.
Mm-hmm.
Do it.
Mm-hmm. And again, there's no negotiation to be had. No other nation would be given any opportunity to influence our tariffs.
Exactly. Because he's not saying we're negotiating with Canada to get a better trade deal. He's saying we fund the income tax system with tariffs. We've gone through the numbers. We all know the numbers. To replace what people put into the income tax system, you would need 100% tariffs on everything across the board.
Every nation, every product.
Every nation, every product.
Mm-hmm.
If you wish to fund our current budget, it would have to be a 200% tariff on everything.
Mm-hmm.
The numbers are out there. And by the way, our numbers were higher, by the way. Our numbers are what we viewed as the imports. I looked at the imports. We actually estimated them higher to make the point.
Right.
And the fact is, Trump expects that people will continue to buy from foreign lands, even with the higher prices, because he himself has said we will become rich through that.
Well, what that means is people will continue to buy the products regardless of a tariff in place.
Yes.
And if you're looking at a protectionist policy, then you actually want the behavior to change. It's the entire point.
Right. You
don't buy these products.
Right.
Buy domestic products.
That messaging makes no sense either.
So it's, again, the math assumes nothing would change in the behavior of the consumer. And that's not accurate, not even close. If you put 25% tariffs on, it's going to impact how the consumer buys it, because ultimately that tariff, that 25% tariff is paid by the consumer. It is passed on to the consumer.
And that's the goal, because if Americans are still buying the foreign goods, yet, we're becoming rich because of it, it means American manufacturing hasn't increased.
Right.
Because
it's not helping domestic producers at all.
In order to get to the numbers that he is talking about.
Right.
So, like I said, but we defended Trump from the accusations of Democrats when they called him a traitor. You should not be implying that people that disagree that tariffs will replace the income tax, and when people disagree with you, that they're controlled by China. That's also the wrong thing to do. We have supported this president when nobody else was. Very few people were. And we have supported him on the vast majority of things that he has done. But we are issue-oriented. We're conservatives. We believe in free markets. There is no free lunch. You cannot, it's impossible that we could fund the federal government or replace the income tax with tariffs. There's no way you can do it. We want truthful messaging and concise information coming from the White House. We don't want confusion when it comes to tariffs. And for those people who say you need to trust the president because he's a great negotiator, he himself is saying he is not a great negotiator. He is communicating, I'm not a great negotiator because the situation with Canada is horrible. Well, you created the free trade agreement alone. You and your trade negotiators, and you stated it was the greatest trade deal ever, and now you say it absolutely sucks and we're getting ripped off. If we're getting ripped off by Canada, it's because Trump allowed the American people to get ripped off by his own communications, by what he is saying.
And if that's your goal to renegotiate, you should have said that from day one.
Yeah.
If you're not happy with the first deal, didn't work out the way we wanted to, we're going back to the table. Okay. State that. There's nothing wrong. You're not going to be faulted for it.
No. It didn't work out.
Didn't work out.
Moving on.
We want a better deal.
Yeah.
Always room for improvement, whatever you want to say. And we're going back to the table.
Now, do I believe that USMCA was a horrible deal? No, I don't. I'm saying what Trump is communicating to the American public. It's what he's communicating to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what he's communicating to other people because other people seem to have a different slant on it.
It just depends on what you want to take from it or what people choose to use in terms of what they take and use as an argument.
Right. What they choose to cherry pick. And again, one more time, and then we're moving on. One more time, our goal is all the same. We don't want Democrats to win. Trump is above water and dominating on almost every single issue except this.
Yeah.
This is the weak spot. And since it's very simple, since the border was taken care of, this has now moved to number one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is it.
And if you don't win this, the presidency is weakened in 2026.
Yeah, the Democrats have the upper hand.
Probably in the House, not the Senate.
Right.
Senate's an uphill battle.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's tough going if you want Vance for 2028. But like we said, do it. Get it over with now. Put the tariffs in effect for a year. If they work, great. If they don't work, well, then you can make the decision. But don't be playing the game where industry and business are completely confused as to where you're going, because that's why you've had, what's the stock market dropped here this week? And that's because they're afraid investment won't be here because of the tariffs.
Right.
Oh, just one thing yesterday, because we were talking about a budget, a trade deficit, and what happens with that money.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a couple of responses. Someone said, there is no trade deficit. We understand the concept when you say there's no trade deficit, because the argument was there is no such thing as a trade deficit because we give them money, they give us a product. There is no deficit. Mm-hmm. You're basically bartering one thing for another. Right. I understand that point. The point we're making is the argument that they're making.
Right.
That the trade deficit is harmful.
Right.
And economically harmful. All right. And so we went through and said, okay, what happens when somebody gets the money? And there was a great professor of business at the Wharton School of Business did exactly what we said. Well, that economically it hurts if the dollar is weakened by a trade deficit.
Right.
But all of that money goes back. That money can only do, you give them money, they have American currency. What do they do with it? The only thing they can do is buy something American, good or service, and then that would equal the trade balance, or you invest it back. You have an investment surplus coming from, other countries into the United States. Mm-hmm. And they buy stock, they buy bonds, they fund our debt.
They buy real estate.
They buy real estate. So I got a response saying, yeah, but then some of these companies could take over here, and that's wrong. Well, that's a political argument. It's not an economic argument. That's a political and national security argument.
Right.
About China. It's not an economic argument.
No, there's been lots of concern about China. Yes. In fact, there's a lot of Chinese money that's come over here, buying up properties, and people. There are a lot of people, conservatives, that are greatly concerned about that.
Right, and that should be a concern. Mm-hmm. Our point was economically speaking. If you take China out of it, whatever, and you look at the other countries that are investing in the United States, I remember when China got ripped off on a bunch of New York real estate. Yeah. They bought it when all went bankrupt, and they got screwed on it.
Yeah.
It's Chinese companies.
Well, and it was thought to be a sure, because New York and California real estate at one point were a sure thing. You could park your money there and know at the very least it's not going to be devalued if you want to go back and sell that real estate, 5-10 years down the road.
But they talk about the capital coming in, the huge influx of capital into the stock market for American industry, because when they take your dollar, they're not going to take your dollar if they don't think they can make more on it.
Right.
That's what they do. And they make more on it by investing it in American industry. And the question is, how do you know economically, not politically or national security, those are all important considerations, but it's economically, where is the downturn economically if you're dealing with people who are not your adversaries in trade? And you would make the great point, but reality is we are. Well, that's because Congress is allowing that to happen.
Right.
But so many multinational corporations now, almost every American large corporation is multinational.
Yeah.
With different, wherever. I mean, it's all tied together. But the fact is, economically speaking, how do you know that it's hurting? And the economic point made by the professor is if the dollar is weakening, because all we're doing is buying and not producing.
Right.
And the dollar would get weaker. And he points out the dollar just continues to get stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger.
Consumption nation.
Yes. We'd be Florida.
Not produce, exactly. As a consumption state, we would be a consumption nation in that, and we wouldn't be producing and exporting.
Yeah.
But we are, and as such, the American dollar has a history of being strong.
That's the thing. Our audience, and you should, you expect us to be able to point out, point by point by point, and then you'll call up and write to us and disagree with us, whatever. But you expect us to be consistent in the minutia of everything. I want that same expectation towards Republicans.
Well, it's, again,
that they need to communicate.
We're talking about the number one issue people voted for alongside the border. The border is solved. That puts all the spotlight on this. This is the story. So whatever's going to happen, do it.
Yeah.
And if you believe in something, don't let Canada or Mexico have a say.
Right. If you believe that we should use tariffs instead of the income tax, we'll do it today.
Mm-hmm.
Call it an emergency thing and say, we're going to give you an example over the next year. We're going to have an emergency. We're going to put 100% tariffs on everything because we told you we can replace the income tax, and we're going to do it for a year. And I'm going to see if Congress or the courts respond in some way.
Yeah.
But do it.
Right.
If you believe it, do it. If you believe it works, and you believe that people who don't think it works are controlled by China, then do it and prove your point.
Mm-hmm. Right.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Oh, one thing, we mentioned the other day. Remember when you had the Ontario Premier, Doug Ford, was out there, and you and I asked, I think we said it on the air. I think, yeah, we did. We said it off the air and on the air. It's like, why is the Canadian government allowing him to speak for the Canadian government? He made it clear yesterday, he's just part of the team that the federal government is the one negotiating.
Okay.
You and I asked the question that when he came out, remember, he was going to suspend the electricity to three U.S. states.
Right.
And you and I said, why is he announcing that?
Right.
He's not the prime minister.
Right.
And so the question was he told basically, he went to the meeting, met with Ludnick yesterday and said it was productive or whatever. And so we'll see what happens with that. But he made it clear that the federal government in Canada is in control of negotiations, not him. So it sort of answers that question.
Yeah,
he made sure that he answered. What do you think? Well, I'm just part of the delegation. The Canadian federal government handles all of this. And I wonder if there was fury inside, the prime minister's office, when he came out and said, we're going to suspend electricity.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa,
There
whoa,
would have to be.
Whoa.
There would have to be.
We didn't say that.
Right. Well, because, look, the left in Canada has been riding this wave in the trade war politically. And they're hoping for the broader election to be reflected in that.
Right.
Whenever that's going to happen. And if you throw down a gauntlet and it's not your gauntlet to throw down, well, then now you're bringing everybody in. And so politically, they all have to, as everybody's in campaign mode, everybody has to answer the questions brought up by you. So, yeah. Interesting move. I
wonder after this meeting how much you'll hear from. I believe he was on. I think he went on Fox yesterday.
Yeah, he was somewhere. Was he on with Kudlow? I forget where he was.
I really wonder whether the Canadian government wants him as a de facto spokesperson.
Right.
And I don't know, but we just said it was weird for him to come out and say it. And then when he reversed it, we're like, okay, what's going on here?
Yeah, right. Yeah. I bet he got it handed to him.
It was a suspension, then 25-cent, 25% increase and all that. We're like, okay.
Right, yeah.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here this morning. I love this audio cut. We got to play a ton of audio cuts because we got to finish the week here. When Pete Hegseth was nominated to be head of the Department of Defense, we said he's more qualified than Austin.
Oh, yeah.
And we said, Austin going AWOL. Disappearing was such in the chain of command, disappearing like he did was so incredibly outrageous. He should have been fired on that day.
Oh, yeah.
Here's Department of Defense whistleblower, retired Brigadier General Christopher Walker on Lloyd Austin.
I want to laud him for his time in the military.
Sure.
But as a SecDef going AWOL twice, that to me is unforgivable. So sorry. That should have been a fireable offense, maybe even actually some worse sanctions than that. I mean, the nuclear command and control is broken when he does that. And I lost all respect for him after that.
That was from Blaze TV, just an interview that they did with the Department of Defense whistleblower. And like I said, that's why with the Hegseth thing, and I know we're going back, but I thought it was important to hear from a whistleblower in the media and another general, about that, because there's this whole thing that, Hegseth is destroying the Department of Defense and everything else and the military, and that couldn't be more ridiculous. And to sit there and say, sorry, with all the wokeness that went on, and look, any soldier knows the psychology of what comes from the leadership to the people that are actually doing fighting, the messaging that is sent to them to unite people together has to be a warrior type mentality where wokeness does not even approach this at all.
Right.
And to sit there and assume that for military people to become brothers and sisters, you need the leadership to promote critical race theory and the radical transgender movement is a clear misunderstanding of the bond that is built between military people when they fight together.
Well, it's a gross misunderstanding as to the role of the military altogether. If you don't get it, if you don't understand why we should have a strong military, I don't know what to tell you. You have no place in the conversation. The DEI world wants to dictate that everything be equal, that we're going to have not just equal, but equity in all departments. Well, I'm sorry, but, you want to have diverse equity inclusion. Not everybody gets to be included. And not everybody rises to the top. The whole equity thing in the military is kind of like the Star Trek thing. There was no pay. Well, if there's no pay, there's no rank. We tore that one apart.
You and I talked about the
you
whole
can't-
Star Trek
yeah,
thing.
you know?
Money doesn't matter anymore.
Right. Yeah.
We're like, well,
Because
money's
the equity, I'd be screaming right away if they were doing that. If I were serving during a liberal administration, they came in and said, "Oh, we're going to go full DEI." Okay, great. I want to make as much as a 4-star general makes. Well, Private Harley, you need to sit down.
Well, we just do different jobs.
Right.
They're both important.
Right. And that's the great flaw is in this clearly what it is. The entire DEI approach is to go in and undermine not just the military, but in the private sector, every major corporation, impede their ability to do what they do. In the private sector, make money. In the military, defend a nation. We need to undermine that at every turn. It really wasn't about diversity, equity, or inclusion. It was about destruction. That's what it was about.
Because if DEI actually led Star Trek, there was a possibility that number 1 was actually number 2.
Right. And who does number 2 work for?
And we want to make this clear, though, in Star Trek. Even though the character was played by Whoopi Goldberg, Guinan the bartender was not a DEI hire. She was very good at her job.
Very good.
She was very good, and she counseled people. She was a good bartender that had a good ear and would listen to you as she served you synthahol.
Right.
I remember synthahol. What was the concept of synthahol again? It gave you a buzz,
You could
and then it took it away.
You could get soup-faced drunk in the bar, and the moment you leave the bar, you're sober.
Yeah, that's how it was. That's how it was sort of communicated to me. I mean,
Yeah.
they never really fully explained it, but that's how I got it. A very short-term effect.
Here's the thing. If I'm a full-on drunk, I'm going to complain about that. That's a ripoff. You mean on the other side of this door is sobriety. I came here for not sobriety. I came here for the other thing. And when I leave here, I also want to be not sober. It's not like I'm driving anywhere. I'm going to my quarters, to order stuff on Amazon that I don't need. And we'll be returning on Monday.
You think Amazon existed in Star Trek? I mean,
I'm guessing they could beam anything up. Bezos wouldn't be such a hero, would he?
Good.
Get it. We'll get it there by 4 a.m. Are you kidding me? We can beam things up.
What are you talking about? What do you mean by 4 a.m.? We're 14,000 light years away from you.
Right, exactly. We could beam it up
Overnight delivery.
and we can snap our fingers. Scotty can have it in front of us now. So, tell me 4 a.m.
But there was a change because Scotty was actually drinking alcohol. And by the time they got to the next Star Trek, it was
Scottish.
synthahol.
It's not going to, no, we're not. He's old school. He's going to drink the real thing.
My favorite first edition of Star Trek, my favorite episode. Do you remember the one where Scotty got drunk with the alien?
Oh, yeah.
And they just kept, because the alien just was like, had more of a tolerance, and it just kept drinking. Finally, the alien passed out. And Scotty was still awake.
Look, the original's great. I like Simon Pegg as Scotty in the later version of Star Trek. Simon Pegg was great.
He was. Yes, he was. he was great with that, and also Tom Cruise's assistant, really, in Mission Impossible, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, same
Right.
guy.
Yeah. The tech guy.
Yeah.
But as
he
Scotty,
was, I will agree with you on that. I was like,
well,
they can't find another Scott. Wow, they did.
yeah. And it was perfect. Perfect. He was drinking, complaining about Kirk, Captain James T. Perfect hair. So it was very, very well done. But the whole thing of Synthahol was a ruse. That's a ripoff. That's a total ripoff. I'm not driving anywhere.
I see it
Why
all.
do I need to be sober?
I see it all social media. It's like, get alcohol free.
Oh, yeah. No, that's actually a thing, yeah.
You can be alcohol free.
Yeah.
Be sober.
Mm-hmm.
Drink this. I'm like, well, that drink will make you sober? No, it's got weed in it. Well, that's not exactly getting you sober.
Somebody did an article on the whole, they call it California sober, where you don't drink, but you smoke weed or you ingest whatever THC product.
That's
California
sober.
Yeah. There was a song, I forget the country artist that did it in the last couple of years, and Willie Nelson was actually part of the duet. He's been California sober for years, but he's the captain of California sober. See, now would there be a synthaweed in Star Trek today?
Synthaweed.
A synthaweed where you go in, gummies, vape, whatever you do.
No hunger.
Well, no hunger.
No
but
no side
your
effects.
buzz
No
is
munchies.
gone the moment you leave. Oh, you get some angry people. Angry people. Hey, on the other side of the door, I was just high, and now I'm no longer high. That's a ripoff. Yeah.
All right. Now, you ready to talk about this? Let's talk about where the Republicans in the White House communicated effectively, brilliantly over the last 36 hours.
All right.
And it was plain the in your own words, especially on social media, where they went nuts, showing what Schumer said about shutdowns, what Pelosi said about shutdowns, what everybody said about shutdowns from the Democratic side. I think that, in combination with the Democrats doing internal polling, made Schumer say we can't win this. Right. But the effective communication, this is, again, when we look and we have criticized the White House for communication in the past. We've definitely gone after Republicans for the longest time about not communicating effectively. They're doing a better job. Now, we criticize on the whole tariff thing, but in other areas, Trump and the White House are communicating brilliantly. And this was one of them, because the great thing was, okay, can they effectively do it? How can they do it? And then you saw these ads all over the place. The White House put out an ad also with Schumer saying everything else.
Yeah.
No shutdown, no shutdown. It hurts people. It's hurt. And they're pounding it. And how many times over the years have we said the internet exists if you want to defeat Democrats?
Play them in their own words. Yes. Play them in their own words. In fact, who was it? Yesterday, I think we played the audio, and it said we have them in their own words. And we posted this video. Who was that said that? I forget who that was. Was it? Oh, Speaker Johnson. We have them in their own words, and here it is as they were putting out that video. And when he said in their own words, we were like, okay, that's exactly what we've been saying for years. Just play them, play the videos, put it together. All you have to do is edit. And they did that. And by the end of the day, Schumer's like, yeah, we're voting yes. After saying we're voting no.
Yeah. And then saying, we'd be giving Trump a win if we didn't vote for it, which was beautiful. You've just admitted he won.
He won. You gave him a win anyway.
Right. You gave him the win.
He's the one that got the GOP in the House together. Basically, he was whipping the votes.
Yeah.
We know that. And so
he whipped this may sound strange. He whipped Roy.
Yeah, well, exactly.
But he actually did, because Roy came. Normally, this is something Roy would not vote for, but it's like, got to get this, and then we move on from this point here.
Right.
And we've got to take this, get this win, and move on, because now the Republicans to say, look, we're governing. Democrats agreed with us. Now, as we said earlier, Democrats should have said, we couldn't believe it. We're like, Democrats should have come out, and Schumer should have come out and said, oh, of course we're going to be for this, because Donald Trump and the Republicans are still funding all, they talk about DOGE and cutting this and cutting that, but all the DOGE things, everything that Biden was in favor of, they are funding again.
Right.
And so we compliment the Republicans for doing that, because that's where the infighting was between Republicans, and they didn't do it.
We're glad that the GOP agrees with us on these items and is not implementing what DOGE is suggesting. It shows you what they really believe. That kind of approach should have been their only approach. It's the only thing you have. It's still not a win for the Democrats.
No.
But it's better than, we're not going to give Trump the win, while you're handing Trump the win.
Well, it's better. I mean, but what a horrible move to come out against it. Oh. No, we're not going to do it. Then the next day say, oh, yes, we're going to do it because we don't want to give the victory to Trump.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's so bad. They are just so screwed up right now.
Yeah.
And this isn't going to help at all.
Because they don't know where to go.
The left is furious at Schumer for doing this.
Oh, yeah.
866-98-RED-I.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Schumer says the shutdown would let a vicious and nasty Musk and Trump destroy democracy. We'll get to that.
All right. Destroy democracy. They're back at that one, huh?
Coming up. When you think about it, what was the highlight for Democrats this week? What was the thing where they were protesting?
You mean at Trump Tower, the protest? Or?
Yeah. Well, what was the biggest protest? Yeah, Trump Tower, New York. It's Khalil and the whole green card holders thing. You can't win that politically. You can't win it.
No, you're not going to win that with the American people.
And my point is, the one thing that they're promoting and most furious about, again, is an 80-20 issue.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
It's like, wow. That and more coming up.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here. Hey, let's hear from Maxine Waters.
Okay.
All right? Sure. Why not?
Why not?
I'm worried that Trump is on the edge of creating a civil war.
There you go. What a week it was.
Was that from 2016 or 2025?
But I just you think about Democrats right now, and I think about the protest. Doggone it, we want to support somebody who is not an American citizen,
right? May
have a green card, but not an American citizen, who was involved in organizing and promoting the protest of pro-Hamas protests. And it's like, sorry, you're not an American citizen. If you had said that's why you were coming in, as Marco Rubio said, if you promoted you're coming in to get your visa, you wouldn't get a visa.
You wouldn't get one. Yeah.
You would get the visa to begin with if we knew that's why you were coming in.
Right.
But that's a hill But the mind-boggling thing is it's a hill that the Democrats want to die on.
Look, it's right in line with where they are. They're proudly anti-Semitic. You want to revoke the visa of anybody who is here that is pro-Hamas. Of course, you're getting in the way of their agenda. They're not going to change. They actually believe in this stuff. This is how they think.
I think about the week that the Democrats had. You know, that was one of their major issues. The other is, and I had said this yesterday on the whole continuing resolution. Half kidding, and then when I got into it, I became half serious. Where I said yesterday to you, I said, Eric, don't you understand if they, don't you, like I was lecturing you. Eric,
don't you understand?
Eric, don't you understand? The Democrats have 21% approval. If they fight Trump on this, they might get 25% approval.
Yeah.
And so they're at the point where they're like, there's nothing to lose by being radicals. So, yeah, Schumer coming out and saying we're not going to vote for it, they might be able to, their numbers, their favorability ratings are so bad that anything that might get them over a 21% approval is something they might consider. Now, I was joking when I started. I go, oh, this is a pretty funny thing. By the time I got to the end of it with you, I was like, you know, there may be some truth to that.
Yeah, the math actually works.
The math actually works on it. Yeah. But then they come around. Then Schumer comes around to yesterday and says, never mind. We're doing it because if we vote against it, if we vote against a continuing resolution, then Trump will destroy democracy.
Right.
Oh. He said something else. What did he call him? I got to find the article, but here it is.
Okay.
Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said Thursday on MSNBC's All In. I've been trying to find the audio on that. I can't find it.
All right.
That the repercussions of shutting down the federal government would be worse than voting for the House funding bill. He said the vicious, quote, bastards, end of quote, of President Donald Trump and Elon Musk will destroy democracy if they did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They're going back to the destroying democracy thing. All right.
Just beautiful. What happened in between? Was it a combination of their internal polling and a combination of that and the very effective ads, in their own words? I got this one listener all ticked off whenever I go back and say, we got this right.
Mm-hmm.
And what are you going to be talking about today? Everything that you got right? Well, yeah.
Of course.
No,
it's our show.
Right.
If you want to talk about what you got right, go get your own show.
Well, you can call us and tell us what you got right.
Right.
That's fine. You're going to go back and talk about what you got right.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there was like anger to it. Well, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I could tell by the way that she was putting it that she thought it was based on, ego, that we are somehow political scientists that have come up with these incredible predictions that nobody else thought of, and when it's completely the opposite. This is so duh that anyone could figure it out.
I actually bought into my own thought for a moment that I'm a genius. But even I didn't believe that.
Yeah, the stuff isn't.
I tried. I was on board for almost 2 full seconds. It's very simple. You have the interwebs. Go to the YouTubes. That's all you got to do.
Because we had said this a long time ago. If you're a long-time listener to the show, just do it in your own words.
Just
do it in your own words.
Just
because
play them
right.
saying whatever in their own words. All you have to do is point or let them do the speaking for you.
And we really said this. We've been saying it for years, but we really emphasized it for Trump's second campaign. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to say anything.
Yeah.
Just play them in their own words.
And they did.
Oh, and they did.
Every time.
Every ad. It was great.
Well, remember every interview she did became the entire interview.
Right.
They didn't even edit it.
Well, remember Trump one time put the latest anti-Kamala Harris ad.
Yeah.
And it was the entire interview of her.
It was perfect. Because it's all you have to do. It really is all you have to do. Because the Democrats aren't winning. You know, they could have taken the shot, like we said. Listen, we're glad the GOP agrees to keep all of the Biden agenda items funded through this continuing resolution. And we're on board with that because we think it's important work. Well, would that have been a win for them? No, but it would have been better than what they did. Schumer looks so weak right now. You saw the story. Everybody's asking if AOC is going to run for his seat. Well, I don't know about that, but I can tell you right now, the party as a whole is flailing. And there is internal rift. I don't even know. Man, I'd love to be a fly on the wall. I would love to be a fly on the wall to find out what's going on, the back and forth. Because where was the change? Where was the call made? And did Schumer see it from the beginning? Look, if the GOP gets it done in the House, it's coming over to us, and we can't vote against it. But then he said, we're not going to vote for it.
I know.
Well, you can't say that if you know what's coming, because you know you're going to either have to own the shutdown or, which goes against all of that, the countless remarks made in the past as laid out by that video, it's, again, there's no win here. You can't be seen as the party doing the shutdown after screaming endlessly about shutdowns before. Because what did you hear from some on the right on shutdowns? Well, is it that big of a deal? Shouldn't we work it out? And, how many people are actually affected? The left went out of their way to make it bigger than it was. You can't come back now and say it's nothing, because it was the end of the world. If you listened to the Democratic Party on shutdowns, on government shutdowns, you would think
it was the end of the world.
Everybody's electricity was being shut off.
Yeah. And that's why it was effective to play those ads.
Exactly.
And I think that's one of the reasons, that plus the internal polling that it did. Here's the transcript of what Schumer said. Under a shutdown, it is the executive branch, in this case, Trump, Musk, Doge, who's head of, and Vaught, who's head of the OMB, who we all know are authoritarians, vicious, nasty, who would have sole control over what is funded and what isn't. They get to determine what is an essential service, and they will just cut to smithereens, far greater than the CR bill, which is a lousy bill, far greater than the one that could be funded and what couldn't, and there's no recourse. You can't go to court. This is a decision totally in the executive branch, so it would be devastating. There's no exit ramp. Anyone who wants a shutdown, I've asked them, how do we get out of it? Guess who it's up to get out? Guess who it's up to get out? Oh, of it, Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Doge. So it's horrible. It's too bad alternatives. And I respect people who actually want, that don't want to vote for the CR. It's awful. But with the alternative being a government shutdown, that's even worse. We have summed up in the sentence that they're making the middle class pay for tax cuts for billionaires. It's much, much better not to be in the middle of a shutdown, which is to divert people from the number one issue that we have against these bastards. These people, which is not only all these cuts, but they're ruining democracy. That doesn't even make sense.
No.
It's like he's just throwing out words.
Yeah.
He's just throw out words.
Yeah.
Here or there. I'm reading this going, what the hell do you mean? It's like, I'm not communicating effectively. Let me throw out bastards.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I need a curse word. Get me a curse word.
Right. That'll get my point across.
I mean, it's like
cursing.
Wow. It just and then the other thing was that I look at that. I look at the protests going on, things that are important to Democrats, and then the arson of Teslas at dealerships.
Yeah.
As a form of protest.
Right. And
Representative Moulton said it. They were saying at MSNBC, we can't believe that Trump and Elon Musk are against legitimate protest. And then they would go on to talk about the arson and violence of the Tesla vehicles.
Right.
It was unbelievable. We're like,
we don't understand why they're against this.
Right. Our First Amendment rights to burn Teslas are going away.
Why is the CEO of Tesla against that?
I have it. I have the audio from MSNBC.
All right.
We got to play it again. Here we go.
Okay. All right.
This was it. Listen to this.
But then you also overnight have this post claiming that protests at Tesla dealerships are illegal. He said today he would label violence against dealerships domestic terrorism. Now, you know I am judicious in how I play this sound, but I think you need to hear it from him.
Mr. President talks about some of the violence that's been going on around the country at dealerships. Some say they should be labeled domestic terrorists.
I will do that. I'll do it. I'm going to stop them. We catch anybody doing it because they're harming a great American company. Let me tell you, you do it to Tesla and you do it to any company, we're going to catch you and you're going to go through hell.
So just to be clear, you protest a private company, you are labeled by this administration a domestic terrorist.
I mean, you're just like totally brushed over the whole violence and destroying other people's property thing.
But she did make the case in the beginning that protest is the violence against the dealerships.
Right.
That's legitimate First Amendment protest.
Exactly.
Does she even realize what she was saying? And you could hear the panelists go, we can't believe Trump is doing this. He's violating the First Amendment.
Right.
We can't commit arson. Arson is protected under the First Amendment.
Yeah. Are they stupid and actually don't know? As long as it's for protest, you're fine. But if it's not for protest, sorry, it's against the law. You can burn other people's property. You just need to tell the cops you're protesting. I mean,
wow.
I don't know. Because you're trying to sell something you have to know doesn't fly, or do you just not know?
866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on speed and space management. Due to safety concerns, many motor carriers have policies that limit or prohibit the use of cruise control. If your motor carrier does allow you to use cruise control, you should only use it in good driving conditions during daylight hours and on roads that have light traffic, few curves or hills, and a consistent speed limit. Never use cruise control when operating in adverse driving conditions, including wet, icy, or slippery roads, during rush hour in heavy traffic or on congested highways, at night, or when you're tired or fatigued. During all of these driving scenarios, you want to be controlling and adjusting your speed as you drive instead of having to suddenly brake if you encounter an obstacle. In the case of a slippery road surface, you want to be able to slow your vehicle by not accelerating instead of using the brakes whenever possible. This tip was brought to you by JJ Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. The other thing we want to cover that happened this week with, I guess, just recently, the announced retirements of 3 Democrats from the Senate.
Yeah.
And the number of Democrats, I was just reading something from Chris Cillizza saying, wow, the Democrats aren't going to get the Senate back in 2026, that they just can't do it because of the candidates that are already running on the Republican side.
Mm-hmm.
But, in fact, let me just play part of the audio that he has here.
Okay.
Okay.
All
Here
right.
we go. Yeah.
Even if we don't see another retirement in the Democratic side, these 3 retirements already, I think, have crushed the hopes of Democrats who wanted to try to win back the Senate in 2026. And here's why. So they need 4 seats. They need to net 4 seats to retake control, retake the majority. You would think, looking at 22 Republican seats up and 13 Democrat seats up, maybe this would be the cycle, but it's not. I think it's very unlikely to be. Because, remember, there's sort of a finite pot of money. Now, it's a big finite pot of money, $150, $200 million, but there's a finite pot of money that gets spent on Senate races. And the truth is that at least in Michigan and New Hampshire, particularly if Chris Sununu winds up being the Republican nominee, what you're going to see is that to hold those seats, just to hold those seats for Democrats, the party is going to have to spend tens of millions of dollars. Now, I'm a little more skeptical that the party will have to spend heavily in Minnesota. I don't know. We'll see. But point is, the money that gets spent there playing defense, right, just to hold Democratic seats, means money that doesn't get spent playing offense in, let's say, a state like Ohio, where Democrats are trying to recruit Sherrod Brown, the former senator, to take on John Husted, the appointed Republican senator. I don't know. I think that might fall a little bit off the financial map. Do I think Maine, Susan Collins, in North Carolina, Tom Tillis, will still get a bunch of Democratic money? Yes. I think both of the Democratic candidates in those races will have ample resources because they're the only 2 real Democratic pickup opportunities. But when you talk about Michigan and New Hampshire for sure, and you add John Ossoff in Georgia, who's going to have a really tough race as an incumbent Democrat, you have 3 big challenges at this point, with maybe Minnesota in there as a 4th big challenge for Democrats.
There you go.
Yeah.
And we're a ways out from that, and already you see some panic starting. Forget about the money, though. Mm-hmm. What issues are they going to run?
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Let's say, I don't know, they were to surprise everybody and come up with a ton more money. What would they spend it on? What would they promote?
And that's why we've said it's so important, because the number one issue now is the economy.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. All right, so we got to make sure we play this audio from earlier this week. This is Representative Sarah McBride, who is a biological male who says he is a female. Mm-hmm. Was introduced at a hearing that was being held in Congress by Representative Keith South, a Republican. Here's what happened. Here we go.
Recognize the representative from Delaware, Mr. McBride.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ranking Member Keating, also wonderful.
Mr. Chairman, could you repeat your introduction again, please?
Yes, we have set the standard on the floor of the House, and I'm simply.
What is that standard, Mr. Chairman? Would you repeat what you just said when you introduced a duly elected representative from the United States of America? Please.
I will. The representative from Delaware, Mr. McBride.
Mr. Chairman, you are out of order. Mr. Chairman, have you no decency? I've come to know you a little bit, but this is not decent.
We will continue this.
You will not continue it with me unless you introduce a duly elected representative the right way.
This hearing is adjourned.
See ya.
Wow.
The party of science, everybody.
It was just, you just shake your head and it's like you're hurting their feelings. It's like, sorry, we tell the truth.
How dare you?
We tell the truth.
Yep.
And I haven't heard it yet, but I was expecting, well, if you tell the truth, this person might commit suicide. I didn't hear that argument yet.
No.
I'm waiting for that argument, but we didn't hear that argument yet.
No. But it's, again, they also don't remember just a matter of months ago, in November, the liberal transgender movement was a big motivator for women voters based on transgenders in sports. Of the women's issues, that one was more motivating to voters than abortion was. Yeah. And they don't get it. Democrats don't see it. They don't know. They don't understand how they lost, why they lost.
And here is the Congressman, Mr. Self, on Representative Keith Self on with Michael Knowles.
Why does it matter? What do you say to your Democrat colleague there, the ranking member, who starts raising his voice, threatens to walk out of the proceeding because you referred to a man as Mr.? What do you say to those people who say it is disrespectful for you to call a man who thinks he's a woman Mr.?
Well, Michael, I'm a retired Green Beret. I'm not even sure what all the fuss is about. I mean, he is allowed to live his life. In fact, I spent 25 years on active duty defending his right to live his life as he chooses. But I don't have to participate in his fantasy.
Pretty
exactly.
simple. Yeah.
Exactly.
You know, and that thing, that's always out there, that if you don't agree with it, that somehow you're being mean and uncaring, and that would be further from the truth.
Well, because, the idea would be here that, no, we're going to control your language as a lawmaker. In this setting or any setting. You will abide by this. You will abide by our agenda. No, I won't. Absolutely not. Look, John Kerry said it. The First Amendment blocks our agenda. He said that out loud proudly. They would love to do away with the First Amendment. They would love to be able to control pronouns and punish people for using the wrong pronouns. But you're not going to get away with that. But this is where their entire party is. The party's not going to change. They're not regrouping going, okay, there was some thought of, are they backing away from this whole thing? Well, we're seeing plenty of indications that they are not. That this is going to be the hill they die on.
I see that, you and I were talking about things that we went, whoa. Basically the dismantling of the street mural of Black Lives Matter in D.C. and the jackhammers up, zero protests.
Yeah. Yep.
That was pretty amazing to see that, how quickly the narrative and how the public has changed, which brings both you and me to the point of, did people feel intimidated? Was the peer pressure there?
Yeah.
Because if something is a long-held, passionate opinion, people keep that for decades.
Oh, yeah. And it doesn't just go away. A cause doesn't go away like that.
And for that to be, that happened, and there was, what was the other thing that happened this week, too? There was that, and there was something else that just shocked the hell out of me. I was like, wow. You just figured there was going to be massive protests. And then where the massive protest was the pro-Hamas protest. I'm like, You're not
Right.
going to win that one.
Well, what it shows is, if you put all this together, that the radicals are still going to be radical and loud, but the mob doesn't have that intimidating power anymore. You know, what they were able to do over the last several years in terms of protests or anything is use the whole mob thing to intimidate people into being part of it and even maybe showing up at a rally or a protest. And now they don't have those numbers. And I don't know where it goes. The radicals are still going to be in play. They're still going to be loud. They just don't have the, I don't know, the added numbers based on what they were able to intimidate people on before. They could get a crowd together through intimidation. They could get the public sounding like it was all going their direction through intimidation. They can't do that anymore. But they can still be loud. In fact, I think they're probably seeing that. The radicals are probably seeing that and saying, we have to be louder. If we can't intimidate people, we have to be louder. We have to go to more extremes. And I think that's what you're seeing. You know, the burning of Teslas. You know, that kind of thing isn't new. Radical terrorism, the left calls protests, that's not necessarily new. We've seen that before. We've seen it on car lots before. They weren't electric vehicles before, but now, because Elon Musk, they have to go after Tesla. And it is full-on terrorism. We're going to come after you. We're going to destroy your property. Well, these people should be held to the letter of the law and have the book thrown at them. You don't get to destroy other people's property. Period. Doesn't work that way. And that does not qualify as a peaceful protest or mostly peaceful protest. Nope. You break the law, you destroy somebody else's property, you go to jail. That's the way it should be. But I don't think the far left, the radicals, are going anywhere. I don't think that's going to be, I don't think that'll be out of the, political field anytime soon. I don't think the left is going to allow it to die. In fact, I'm wondering if there's some kind of coordination of, hey, radicals, you do this better than we do. So all of us non-radicals are going to be over here doing things on, whatever, legislation or whatever. You guys go make the noise.
I wonder, this is the big question. We say it's the most interesting question because we sort of know where Republicans are going on the vast majority of issues.
Mm-hmm.
But with to me, the fascinating projection is, what are Democrats going to do? And especially after yesterday, reading this from Politico, the Democrat base wants a fight. Chuck Schumer won't give it to them. The Senate minority leader on Thursday backed away from the shutdown confrontation that many liberal voters and activist leaders have been pushing for, arguing that closing the government would only empower President Donald Trump and billionaire ally Elon Musk in their bureaucracy-slashing campaign. The decision sent shockwaves through the left and had many in their ranks seething at the top party leader who had sought to win them over in recent years. When I can't think of her name, the congresswoman who said Trump's creating a civil war.
Maxine Waters.
Maxine Waters.
Mm-hmm.
When she said that yesterday, we played the audio cut earlier. he might be in the Democratic Party.
No, I think internally, I think they're right now in chaos. Yeah.
The news that the top Senate Democrat would be backing down dejected scores of House members who were gathered at a resort about 25 miles outside of Washington, D.C. for the Democratic Caucus annual party retreat. They had stuck behind House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, who had wrangled all but one of his members to oppose the Republicans' funding patch earlier this week. And you go through the number of House members that are furious. Well, now they're up in revolt against Schumer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Does this mean they want Schumer gone?
No,
and it wasn't that just Schumer said. If you said it, if they had marketed it the way we told them to do it, the Democrats, we give advice to everybody, but the Democrats never pay attention to us. And it was very easy. You simply say, because you look and say, what are Republicans upset about this bill? It's funding all of Biden's priorities still. Well, that's what you do. That's it right there.
Use that right there.
You come out and you go, we're voting for this. You don't come out and say, we're not going to vote for it, and then change your mind.
Right.
And just simply say, well, if we don't pass it, then Trump will destroy democracy. That's old. It didn't work in the campaign.
We're very happy that the GOP agrees with us that those items on the Biden agenda need to be continued in terms of funding, and we're fully on board for that. This continuing resolution does that. We're happy that the GOP sees that over in the House. They clearly had a change of heart and got the votes done, and we're glad they sent it over to us because we are going to help support it.
They are only in DEFCON rage right now.
Oh, yeah.
That's what it is. It's just, it's complete rage upon anything where they're not even marketing, even attempting to market effectively what their point of view. It's just like revolution. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I really wonder what happens now. Because now it's not Republicans that are the enemy. It's Schumer.
Yeah.
Schumer's now the enemy. And whatever, if they get those 8 senators to vote, they're now the enemy.
Right.
What if you get half of the senators to vote for it, Democrat, or 3/4?
Right.
Is there a civil war between the Democrat House and the Democrat Senate? 866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our newly updated Red Eye Radio app. Oh, yes. Thanks. Got a couple of comments that it's working great. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Why? Well, our show's over in an hour. Another hour from now. 5 o'clock Central Time, 6 o'clock Eastern Time. It ends, and if you didn't get to listen to the whole show or the beginning of the show because you're listening late, and a lot of people go to sleep with us and then wake up to us, well, then just get our Red Eye Radio app, and at an hour from now, it becomes our podcast. We record the show. That's what happens. And if you can't listen to one of our great radio stations while the show is on, we stream all 5 hours live on the Red Eye Radio app, the newly updated Red Eye Radio app.
And thank you.
Yeah.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.